Will debt sink the American empire? So asks the Wall Street Journal in an uncharacteristically gloomy article for Wall Street's paper of record. They kick off with the obvious. America is, quote, cruising into an uncharted sea of federal debt, with a government seemingly incapable of turning it around. In short, the Uniparty has set its course and there is no cavalry coming. The situation is indeed dire, with nearly $35 trillion in debt, $2 trillion annual deficits, and potentially $100 trillion plus in unfunded liabilities between Social Security and Medicare. But none of this should be shocking. Governments by nature spend everything they can get their grubby little paws on. In fact, much of history is made up, specifically of governments desperately trying or failing to sustain their outrageous mountains of debt. So debt brought down Rome, first with hyperinflation, then with a gutted military that barbarians walked right over. It brought down Spain as New World Gold funded an effective government takeover of the private sector, bankrupted France by foreign wars, Qing China collapsed by debt, and even Great Britain, who once owned nearly half of Earth and then went bankrupt. Indeed, government debt is why we got the Magna Carta, or constitutions in general, as kings pleaded for more money. It's also how we got central banks, as first Britain and then other governments licensed money printers in exchange for financing government debt. To this day, government debt crashes economies regularly. Currently, countries from Turkey to Venezuela to Nigeria are undergoing debt crises, with Argentina desperately trying to pull out of one. For better or worse, with so many historical cases, we know exactly how this ends. Investors stop buying government debt, leading to massive austerity and soaring inflation as the government retrenches. Governments cancel the trillions they promise, so much for Social Security and Medicare, and then they pull back to where they pay the Praetorian Guard and not much else, so much for Ukraine. In short, once debt hits the magic line, Washington goes from sugar daddy to the mattress scene in Godfather, a few trusted lieutenants for the final standoff. Note that historically it all happens much faster than people imagine, so everything is fine until it crashes in that famous perfect storm. So what's next? Brought to you by Unchained.com. Washington's debt can be stopped. In fact, we did stop it in the 90s under Clinton and Gingrich. From 1997 to 2000, Washington actually ran budget surpluses. The key for that moment was gridlock. Two parties that despised each other so much, the only thing they could agree on was blocking each other. Unfortunately, whether it was corporate donors or golden parachutes for politicians, both parties have since made up and now cooperate to loot the people. Democrats generally use their chits to feed their activist army at taxpayer expense, while Republicans instead give them to Ukraine. Still, there's a ray of hope. Clinton-Gingrich was not that long ago. The parties can hate each other again if they try, instead of conspiring against the defenseless people. Alas, voters have to demand it because Washington will not fix itself. Read the rest of the article with charts and all the gory details at profsailons.com. Okay, we'll be watching. See you next time.